Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Okay, there's been some interesting revelations made of late. On the 23rd of August, there's been mention about this, and it continues on the same thread of a celestial body having entered our solar system and perturbations being experienced by many of the planets within our solar system. Well, recently we've got on Cosmos, they've done an article on this, which is very, very relevant. It talks about the atmosphere of Neptune having changed, and they're hypothesizing why that's happening. I want you to obviously pay attention to the fact that it's quite a big atmospheric change on Neptune, and Neptune is a ginormous planetary body within our solar system, a gaseous one, and it's got a huge atmosphere, a very thick and a dense one. At any rate, I'm going to read this very quickly for you, but please stick around because it's very important that you actually watch a segment of some of the guys, researchers, who are basically researching this particular phenomena very closely, and they're doing an excellent job at it. But let me read this out to you very quickly, and then we'll move on to that, and you can watch it for yourself, so you won't have to listen to my um, um, nonsense for too long anyway, inshallah. So just bear with me anyway. On the very fringes of our solar system, Neptune has long intrigued astronomers for its complex weather patterns, despite temperatures hovering around 200 degrees centigrade. How does its atmosphere swirl and twist with massive years-long storms if it's so chilly? A study by Karen Aplan from the University of Oxford and Giles Harrison from the University of Reading in the UK revealed two theories scientists use to explain this phenomenon. They're theories, by the way. Sunlight and cosmic rays may both be right. This research, published Nature Communications, started in 1972 and measured Neptune's brightness while modeling the effects of sunlight and highlight energy particles called cosmic rays hitting the planet. Now you see the effects of the atmosphere. These little lights are basically what's happening to the atmosphere. Recently, that's gone up quite considerably. So something's causing these perturbations within our planet. I'll leave the link to that, but I want you to listen to these guys now because they'll talk about an interesting phenomena occurring within the area, the AU of Neptune. AU basically means the distance between the Sun and the Earth. That's a astronomical measuring unit. The Earth and the distance between the Earth and the Sun is 1 AU, which is around about 93 million miles. Neptune, I think, is around 10 AU away from our Sun. But it seems like this incoming celestial body is around about there at the moment. And this is what's being kept hush by NASA. I'll let you guys now listen in on what these guys have to say.
But basically, what he was just an amateur astronomer. He went out to the WISE spacecraft imager. He was curious about that empty spark part of space that Google kept covering up, Wayne, a couple of years ago.
Yep.
So he went out and did several images by himself and actually went back and caught what David Mead was saying was Nemesis. So if you guys remember David Mead, he's an author that says that our flyby is going to be in 2017 October, and we don't buy that. By the way, everybody, we listen to him politely, we look at his.
The flyby he's referring to is the passage of this star. They refer to it as Nemesis, the Dark Star, Herculobus, Blue and Red Caccina, the Guest Star, the Jacob Star, the Wormwood, very possibly Tariq and Najm, referred to in the Quran. That's a possibility, and that's something I want to highlight. That this star that's being referred to, even it's been called Planet 9, Planets X, and many other references or names have been given to this particular star. At any rate, for argument's sake, let's just call it the star. which is entering our solar system, and it's a binary star to our sun. I'll let them continue.
Information, but I don't know for sure. I will not put a date on this because it's just impossible to do so with the information that we have. But these are more or less the same area in space, and I'll show you where that area in space is here on the solar system scope, where we're seeing these two orbs. Now, this is similar to the two orbs that we see here. That's why I think it's interesting, Wayne.
Yes, I do too as well.
Okay, so what I did was I said, okay, well, we got these pictures from the 20th of this object with the two eyes on it that some say is the dragon itself, the thing that the cultures called the dragon. When they saw it from Earth, it looked like a huge dragon. And again, there it does look kind of like a dragon's face in this picture.
Looks like two eyes coming at me is what it looks like to me.
And I could see how an ancient person would call that a dragon for sure.
Sure,
You know?
absolutely.
So now I'm going to go to the solar system scope and kind of show you where this thing is, okay? And so
This is what's exciting.
Yep. Here's the inner solar system, right? And Sechi's on the other side, so I'm going to go ahead and pretend like we're Sechi, okay? Sechi's sitting about right here, okay? You with me?
How do we know this, Steve? How did you and I and Jay, how do we come up with this conclusion?
That's where Sechi is. Well, I know it's sitting on this side of the Earth. I can't tell you its distance.
Yeah.
So I found.
We were able to deduce the view, right?
What's that?
We were able to deduce where the view is pretty much looking out at.
Right.
Okay.
So if you go back to the Sechi image that we're looking at, you'll recognize Neptune, Mercury, Mars, Venus, and Pluto, right?
Yes, sir.
Now I go to the solar system scope, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. Okay? Mercury, Venus, Mars. And the Sechi spacecraft is in front of Jupiter, by the way. Okay?
There's our view, folks.
So if I go in a little bit closer, this is what I'm seeing right about here. Okay? Agreed?
Agreed.
All right, so if the object is coming from over here, that little thing that guy was showing us, that breaking story, let me illustrate that by showing you the constellation it's in. Did you see that?
I did.
This object, that the two little dots on it, is right here. So let me just reiterate here. It is this object, this, Wayne, this object, these objects, with this dust cloud and all this other stuff.
The object that they're pointing out, it's the one that's been obscured on Google Maps and everywhere else, even by NASA. Again, but Sechi, their satellite, and Soho and the stereo satellites, they're all picking up these anomalies. And they're going at great lengths to hide them. And when prompted, they're certainly not responding to the inquiries. But these are like professional astronomers and people who are basically researching this on the ground. They certainly don't have the same resources as NASA does or the governments do. But they're doing a swell job. Again, I'm just going to let them continue. I just had to interject so I can explain exactly what he was referring to here.
Stuff going on is right here.
I think when we begin to look at all possibilities, you'd have to be, well, you have to consider the possibility.
Well, all I'm saying is that I've got a corroboration here, right?
Exactly.
So I've got my Sechi image is showing the included area here, which we don't think that's a baffle, by the way. We don't.
Right. When he said an included image, it seems to be that this is a genuine image by Sechi, and again, this is NASA. And what they've done is basically photoshopped a certain section of that particular image, and they have been doing this for a while now. These guys are postulating that whatever has entered our solar system is actually here, and this is why it's been included and photoshopped out of this image.
Talk about it all the time. Yesterday, we showed that May 24th image of something bouncing off of the baffle, which
Yeah.
That was inside of the camera, right?
See,
God damn! Stop insulting my intelligence.
it exploded. Lens flare my, you know what?
But anyway, so we're showing the occluded version of.
Okay, when he said exploded, there was recently there was a big massive I've done a little video tutorial of it about the star. You'll find it on the channel, and on that Venus had a huge flare. Its atmosphere was literally torn out of it. Was this celestial object had actually come into the frame. Again, NASA's not been able to explain that away. And then we had some huge X flares from the sun, which incidentally occur very rarely. X flares, at least the measure of the X flare that we witnessed and recorded and was documented, and there were two actually, were the sort of ones that had only been documented in the mid 1800s. And this is admittedly found actually claimed by NASA, that those sort of X flares don't happen, but they were documented and seen to happen not so long ago. So something is really upsetting our sun as well as the planets, and they're obscuring something here which has entered into the solar system. These are very real images by NASA. You can go and check all of these. There you go. The links here. I don't know whether it's intelligible or not, but if you look into this and directly type it into your browser, you'll be able to go directly to SETI. These are genuine images.
If this wasn't occluded, what you would see here is like a very strange, object. And what we're seeing, that we think that possibly, the object that was being captured by the individual with the WISE sky survey, this, possibly, is this.
And then let's bring up the object in question and why we think that if it passes Venus, the next target is Earth.
Okay, so this star that's passed Venus, they believe is on its passage to in our direction, basically.
Yeah, let's get a look. Let's just pull this to the side again so we can take a look. And this is a big heads up, everybody. I mean, we don't know.
It really is. Something's going on.
The question I have is, what's going to happen to Venus? That's what I'm waiting for.
Coming at Venus with this beam, and then what Wayne wanted to show is that it's the next thing that would be in the path of that, if it's pointing in that direction, would be Mercury and Earth.
And it just depends on where Mercury is in its orbit, whether it's going to be in front of us or moving aside.
By the way, I got an amateur astronomer. Remember Dieter?
I did.
Dieter confirmed through analysis that Mars indeed is 6 degrees too low.
So, Steve, turn it on the ecliptic for us so everyone can get an idea of what we're talking about when we say 6 degrees below. So there we go. Yeah.
So if it basically is saying that Mars orbit is dipping down below this line of what we call the ecliptic. All the planets are on one line around the sun. It's a very strange thing, but that's the way planets line up around a star. And they never really leave that ecliptic, that plate, though. They rotate around that imaginary plate. Well, here's the thing. If anything moves off of its orbit, which is, again, this is the 3 laws of thermodynamics, guys. Go back to your science, right? Nothing is going to change its direction, speed, velocity, or anything unless something acts upon it.
Precisely.
Okay, now the perturbations that are being mentioned, you found that in the studies and the documentation from Caltech University. I've provided that in the description box of many of the videos that I've shared. Also, it's in the PDF document Science. These perturbations that are being discovered are being caused by an alien body, a celestial body that's entered the solar system, and it's upsetting the planets and their orbits. This is what he's referring to right now, and he's making mention of, is that something's upsetting these planetary bodies and changing the orbit or the degree and the angle, and this is why our poles are shifted as well by around about 20 to 25 degrees. The poles have considerably shifted, and that's a huge shift, by the way. So something's tugging at us magnetically and gravitationally, and these guys are hypothesizing that this is a culprit that's doing it to all the planetary bodies within our solar system, and it's heading in our direction.
And why is that? Because we know inertia in space. If you have a force that has been emitted, the inertia of that force would go unabated until it either does one or two things. It either encounters another force, or the dispersion of the energy itself begins to eventually spread out in the space, correct?
That's correct. Now, before we get off this video, because I think this is enough meat here for people to kind of chew on today, and then we'll put up obviously more videos over the weekend. But Jake, you are also trying to show us something in that lower right-hand corner, if I remember correctly, from that sets of images together. What do you think you're seeing in that lower left-hand corner?
Okay, guys, so I'm gonna end this video at this. I think it's quite a lot to digest and take in, but I mean, these anomalies do exist. A lot of celestial bodies are being witnessed in the skies, at least from the southern hemisphere. It seems like it's coming from the Sagittarius constellation or somewhere thereabouts. We do orbit the sun on a anti-clockwise motion. Interesting enough, I understand Venus is the only planet within our solar system that actually orbits in the opposite direction. There's a hypothesis that this particular celestial body enters our solar system every so many thousands of years. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. A lot of people speculate. There's all sorts of speculation that it happens 1200 years, every 1200, then there's 3600 years, then it goes into its thousands, millions, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. But every time that it does enter our solar system in its retrograde orbit, and it shares, it seems, if it's a binary star, then it shares a orbit with our sun. That particular orbit is called a barycenter, and that is basically when the two stars, when they orbit one another and come into close proximity, that's the center of gravity between the two stars, and this particular object comes to that center and is drawn to that center after it does its orbit, elliptical orbit, which is the one that's understood to be the orbit of this particular star. Now it's coming to that barycenter, it's getting closer and closer to it. As it does that, what it does is basically, I mean, they're hypothesizing this is why Venus actually spins in the opposite direction to all the other planets within our solar system, is that this particular star gets very close to Venus and flips it, and causes it to spin in the opposite direction. So if it can do that to a planetary body, you can imagine what it can do to the rest of the planetary bodies as it comes into our solar system. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, but again, there's a lot of evidence. The evidence is mounting up. Our climate is changing severely, very fast. The earthquakes are increasing. I mean, I did a post on a star and some other planetary bodies following it near our moon, just before the earthquake was witnessed the following day in Italy. Again, there's a huge pattern. The earthquakes are certainly increasing. They're increasing exponentially. You've got comets entering our atmosphere. Again, just in, I think, 2006 or 7, there was about 500 comets that entered our atmosphere. Well, present day, this year, just 6 months into the year, we've had around about 4,000, 4 to 5,000 comets enter the atmosphere. Subhanallah, that's a huge increase. It seems like this particular object that's coming in is dragging stuff from the Oort Cloud, from the Kuiper Belt as well, and flinging that in our direction. Hence why we're seeing that, and we'll probably see an increase of that when we enter the tail of that particular debris field. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, but again, these are all hypotheses, but the evidence is certainly mounting up, and it requires our attention. So I'm going to end it at this. Again, like I said, just the drastic earth changes, the climate changes, the ice melting, the pole shifting by 20 odd degrees, the sun is setting 20 odd degrees away from the north. The the Van Allen belt is weakening. Our magnetic field is weakening. We're having a lot of landslides, sinkholes, and heat waves, droughts. Lakes and rivers are drying up. You've got fish again in wholesale numbers washing up on beaches, and then all sorts of diseases are on the rise. You're hearing about manufactured diseases. Allahu alam, Allah knows best. The Zika virus and other sort of diseases in the States. There's rumours about them starting a martial law, enacting that in the States. Then there's a lot of rumours and noises for the Malhama. For me, my understanding of all of this is that phase one had actually started with 9/11. They were anticipating this star and its incoming passage and the destruction it will bring with it. And I think they used that as a nucleus of a very, very, very large plan. And that plan was to basically stage 9/11 and then curbing civilian rights and entering and invading other countries for this plan that they have. And to almost etch out. I mean, again, it's been a series of the Hegelian dialectic playing out over and over and over again, and they've continued doing that. And the largest one I understand to be the example of that would be World War III, the Malhama. Personally, my position is that the leaders, most of them on both sides, the thesis and the antithesis, which would be the good and the bad, are both part of the same structure. They're, so to speak, in bed together. And where a leader may not be in on it, conditions have been created where that particular leader of that particular country would be compelled to act in a certain way. This is my hypothesis. I also believe it or not, and again, it's a difficult thing to digest, but I think that they're going to stage an extraterrestrial contact. The United Nations have appointed an ambassador, an alien ambassador. Please scroll a line under that and look it up on Google to communicate with aliens. And then you've got the Pope, who speaks about christening the alien brethren. They've also got, interesting enough, and this is the Vatican, who've got a telescope, who built up a telescope in, I think, Antarctic, which is worth billions of dollars, and they've called it Lucifer. Interesting enough. We won't discuss that any more than necessary, but it's very strange that there's this rhetoric taking place, and then all these movies and the news, and recently you saw ESO talk about exoplanets and the existence of life on a planet being very similar to our Earth, 4.2 light years away from us, in not so far away, really, to be honest with you. And they're just entertaining this dialogue of the existence of extraterrestrial life in the public psyche, and then about a planet orbiting a dwarf star, which is exactly what it is, the star that they're referring to. And then you had all the tabloids soon after, again on a bandwagon, and pushing this agenda along of extraterrestrial life being out there. I think they're going to be staging this. It's going to be a false one. There's no such thing as aliens, extraterrestrial beings. What you do have is Nabag Jinn, demonic forces, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. I think that that dialogue will be entertained. There's a lot of fitna that will come. World War III, disease, poverty, drought, famine, and then there's again, I think this dialogue will be started, and this alien extraterrestrial contact at least will be staged. I really do have to emphasize on that particular word, staged, because there's no such thing as aliens. And I think Ad-Dajjal, when he does eventually reveal himself, will actually claim extraterrestrial origins and here to basically save mankind, and they've been here before, and they were the ones who actually brought the greater religions to mankind, and telepathically inspired the Anbiya al-Islam, with their religious beliefs and doctrines. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, and that they created man from the Homo erectus by hybridizing their DNA with the Homo erectus, and this is how they created Na'uzubillah min zalik, from believing such nonsense. This is how they created Adam and Eve, Hawa alayhi salam, and it seems like, genuinely, I've done a lot of research behind this, and please make reference to the document Science PDF, and there's a lot in there to digest and a lot to take in, but I really want ulama to basically start looking into this. I mean, the evidence is there, and I hope it's not going to be too late, because we're talking about, forget the famine and the deaths and the disease and everything else. The most important thing is our iman, and this is why we're here. This is why we're coming to Alami Wujud, is to basically traverse this reality into the next with our iman intact, and connecting the rest of mankind with the oneness, with the wahdaniyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the risala of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is our purpose in life, and right now it seems like there's this whole agenda, along with evolution and everything else, which seems to be all, you can connect the dots and see it all come together, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, but it certainly does require investigation. Again, Jazakallahu khairan wa ahsanul jaza for your time and for listening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.